So there are some official announcements by Instagram that were just made yesterday, or depending upon where you are today. And I would be going through those announcements. For example, Instagram ranking, uh, and looks like there are many other announcements as well. So, and also the head of Instagram actually uploaded a video on Twitter. Let's go to his Twitter account. And which looks like, I mean, this is that link, which looks like it is about the same article and things that they discussed there. So we would be going through these announcements together, and you would get my live reaction. Maybe I might share some of my experiences, or what I had heard about these features I experienced in the past, or what was the background of these features or announcements. So yeah, let's do it.
Open up Instagram, the first thing we do is we look at. Today, I'm going to explain how ranking works on Instagram. I did a video like this about 2 years ago, but we've made a lot of changes and improvements to Instagram over the last few years, so I thought it'd be good to do an updated version. Fair warning, this is going to be a little bit of a long video because I'm going to go into detail about how ranking works.
The biggest change that they made is making or getting carousels their reach back. It may not be as intense as it used to be earlier, but since they launched Reels, they are pushing Reels more, and carousels lost their charm, because as people were uploading carousels, by carousels I mean the Instagram posts where there are multiple slides. So people started experiencing reduced reach for their carousels, whereas if they choose to upload reels were getting more reach than there has ever been on Instagram for any posts. So it was almost futile for brands and creators to upload carousels, but since 2022, not really, actually 2023, they started giving reach to carousels as well, and they officially actually said that they were actually pushing video content more in 2022. So, and people are actually getting more reach on carousels. So almost, if you upload if you upload carousels, reels are still getting more views, but the situation or condition with respect to carousel posts have certainly been improved. In fact, if you upload carousels, you tend to attract more relevant audience, which might actually end up following you, which might end up actually buying from you, which might actually, and there is another advantage, and that is you can actually see how many profile visits you gained because of that particular carousel post, which is not possible to see on Reels. So yeah, that was the one of the biggest change that they made. I mean, Reel versus carousels on Instagram in the past year, I would say.
Works in stories and feed and Reels and explore. And
yeah, so when we talk about Instagram algorithm, there are actually 4 or multiple algorithm, mainly 4 algorithm as they are saying right now: Reels, explore, stories, and posts or feed. For stories, there is different algorithm. The image posts or carousels or even reels that we post to the feed, that one has a different algorithm. What would rank, or whether we would rank on explore, that would be another algorithm. And for reels tab, it would be another algorithm. So these 4 Instagram call it as surface. So these are four different surfaces. Earlier there was another surface called IGTV, which had its own algorithm, but it does not exist anymore.
It does take a little bit of time to do that. But to start, people often talk about the algorithm, but there is no one algorithm for Instagram. There are many algorithms and ranking processes we use to try to personalize the experience to make it as interesting as we can for each and every person who uses Instagram. We believe in this idea of personalization. What you're interested in and what I'm interested in is different, and so therefore your Instagram and my Instagram should be different, and ranking is how we deliver on that promise. So let's start with stories, because they're at the top of the app. Now, when you open up Instagram, the first thing we do is we look at every story that you might see, because it was posted by someone you follow within the last 24 hours. And we estimate how interested you might be in each and every one. Now, we can't know for sure how interested you are, but we can use proxies or guesses. And so what we do is we make predictions. We predict certain things that you might do with a story. You might tap on a story to open it. You might reply to the author. You might like this. Use proxies or guesses. What you're interested in and what I'm interested in is different, and so therefore your Instagram and my Instagram should be different, and ranking is how we deliver on that promise. So let's start with stories, because they're at the top of the app. Now, when you open up Instagram, the first thing we do is we look at every story.
By the way, people are experiencing that their story icons or the story tray at the top has increased in size, which is the change that is not welcomed by a lot of users, including me myself. They are just testing, not everybody has got it. So in case you have it, no need to panic. I've also uploaded a reel about it, a short form video on YouTube as well. So let's just hope that it would not be rolled out for everyone, and soon they would decide and discontinue this feature.
That you might see, because it was posted by someone you follow within the last 24 hours. And we estimate how interested you might be in each and every one. Now, we can't know for sure how interested you are, but we can use proxies or guesses. And so what we do is we make predictions. We predict certain things that you might do with a story. You might tap on a story to open it. You might reply to the author. You might like the story or send a reaction or an emoji. These are all proxies for indicating that you are interested in what that person had to say. And the way we make these predictions is we use signals, information that we know about you and your interests.
It's interesting that he did not mention about consumption, or in YouTube terms, watch hours. There would be a lot of people, there might be a lot of people who might just watch our stories on regular basis, but they might not just choose to interact with the story. So does that mean our story would not be shown to them, or would be shown last or ranked last for these people? Let's see if he talk about consumption, because there is a difference. People might actually consume regularly but might not interact. Interaction in terms of our engagement stickers, slider, poll, question, and even there is one emoji type sticker is there, so people tap on it and it's like they use that emoji, reaction emoji. Also there is, if you swipe up, there are emojis that pop up, people can react with that emoji, and there is a like button and you can reply to the story. So these are the all engagement type, but they're also consumption also matters, I suppose. If you upload, I mean, earlier it was just 15 seconds stories, but now it's up to 59 seconds. So what if people might interact with your story but they did not actually watch your entire story? Or there are people who watch your entire story but never actually choose to interact with it. So let's see if he says up anything about consumption.
Now, the most important signals for,
because if there are people, majority of the people are just consuming and not interacting, that means that could also be an indication that how good our story is going to perform in general. So we would be more we should be putting in more efforts to generate interaction than just views on our story. So if we know that we are not going to get interactions, if we are just lazy to put up that engagement sticker, for instance, or somewhere that we feel like, okay, I can just put up a story, but I'm not sure if people would be actually interacting with it or striking up a conversation, that we might want to refrain from that. Let's see if he has got anything to say about the consumption.
Stories in order of importance are your history of interacting with stories. So do you
Viewing history. So there comes the consumption. Okay.
tend to look at stories from this author? Your history of interactions with the author of that story. So do you tend to reply to that author or like stories from that author in the past? And then how close do you seem to be to that author in general? Maybe you message them really often. That's another signal. Now we use those signals to make those predictions. The higher we think, the likelihood.
Yeah, I've been saying this a lot of times. Interact with your audience. Have conversations with your audience. For example, if they interact with your engagement sticker, give your reaction to it. Reply to that engagement that they had with your story, and they would actually see that your reply is with respect to the particular story. Sorry for that. I'll have to cancel it. Okay. So people would understand that this particular, your message is with respect to your story. And if you are using Android, then people would also see that why you have replied, or their reaction to your story, and your reply is to that reaction. So they would see that as well if you are using Android. So so that's just a way for you to rank more or higher for your stories, and also have a stronger bond with your audience. So again, official announcement, official revelation that interactions matter when it comes to ranking our content among the feeds for our target audience.
Of you tapping on that story or replying to that story, the higher up in stories it's going to be for you when you open up Instagram. All of this is a means of trying to help connect you with the people that you care about and that you're interested in. Next, let's go to feed. The goal of feed is to catch you up on the very best that's happened on Instagram since you used the app last. This means photos and videos not only from accounts that you follow, but also from accounts that you might not have heard yet, but we think you might be interested in. And what we do here again is make a series of predictions. So for every post, we predict how likely you are to comment on it, like it, share it, tap on the profile pic, or even spend a few seconds looking at it. And we make those predictions using signals, information we have. The most important signals in order of importance are: one, your history of interactions. What do you tend to interact with and like on Instagram in the past? Two, information about that post. Is it popular? Is there a lot of activity around it? Three, information about the person who made that post. And four, how much do you tend to interact with that author of that post in the past? And what we try and do is order things in feed in the order that you might be interested in it. So the things that you're the most interested in should be at the top and the least interested at the bottom. Now I want to be clear. We don't know exactly what you're interested in. We're making an educated guess and we make mistakes, which is why it's so important that we build controls to help you shape the experience into something that you love. Now, two new controls that we've built.
Again, he's going towards product education. He's just trying to tell how awesome the app is for the general users.
Actually, since I made the last one of these videos, is favorites and following. Favorites is a list of accounts that you curate, of accounts that you are really interested in. And if any of your favorites...
This is just a reminder that you need to include add me to your favorites among your call to actions.
Post a photo or video, we're going to do our best to show that photo or video at the very top of feed next time you open up Instagram. And following is a feed photos and videos only from accounts you follow and in chronological order. If you really want to just focus on what's the latest and greatest that has been posted by the people that you've decided to follow over the years. Next, October.
What I like about the following feed is that we do not see any ads in the feed.
Reels. Now the goal of Reels is to entertain you, and most of what you'll see in your Reels tab are videos from accounts that you do not yet follow. And so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to make a series of predictions about each reel to assess how interesting it might be to you. But I want to first start with this idea of what do we even look at to rank in the first place? Because there are a lot of reels posted on Instagram every day, and we have to decide which ones you might be interested in. But basically we take a look at what you interact with, other people who interact with the same content, and what else they seem to be interested in. But then we go back into a very similar pattern that you've heard about in
You gotta take it a little bit back.
Content and what else they seem to be interested in. But
did you see that? What he said? Let's hear it again.
Interact with other people who interact with the same content and what else, and we have to decide which ones you might be interested in. But basically we take a look at what you interact with, other people who interact with the same content, and what else they seem to be interested in.
I gotta hear it again.
Might be interested in. But basically we take a look at what you interact with,
Other people
who interact with the same content, and what else they seem to be interested in.
Whoa. Okay. So it just tells me, okay, let's look at it from a normal user's point of view. Now there is, let's say, a phone, and I like to consume content about, let's say, iPhone, and majority of the people in the world who consume content related to iPhones also like, let's say, a pen. Now, just because I'm interacting with content related to iPhone, there are higher chances that I might be shown more of pen related content. That's what he is actually saying. I'm not going to make any deductions based on this because it might not be directly linked with marketing, but this is a very good insight. One of the biggest social media platforms just told us something really interesting.
But then we go back into a very similar pattern that you've heard about in feed and stories. We make a series of predictions for each reel. So how likely you are to watch the reel till it's over, how likely you are to send the reel to a friend, and how likely you are to go to the audio page for that reel, which is a way of assessing if you might be interested in creating a reel yourself. And the signals we use are what you tend to be interested in on Instagram, what reels you've watched in the past, and information about the reel, about the author of the reel, and how much you've interacted with that author if you have, in fact, interacted with that author in the past. All of this to create a tab, an experience that's immersive, hopefully delightful, and hopefully entertains you with some amazing videos on Instagram. Next, let's go to Explore. Explore, like Reels, is a recommendation surface. It's primarily content from accounts you do not yet follow, but it's photos and videos, and the goal of Explore is just to help you discover new things that you might be interested in. And so we predict how likely you are to like a post, how likely you are to save that post, how likely you are to share that post. And the information or the signals we use to make those predictions are very similar to the ones that we use for Reels in a slightly different order. Actually, the number one signal or group of signals is information about that post. How popular is that post right now? The second most important is your history of interaction. So what do you tend to be interested in on Instagram more broadly? For me, I'm into...
So the point where you mentioned that the ranking system on Explore is a bit different than the Reels. And what is prioritized on Explore page for ranking is the popularity. And then maybe comes your interest.
Cooking, I'm into men's fashion, I'm into architecture, interiors, and so my Explore tends to reflect that. And the third and the fourth groups of signals are information about the author and your history of interacting with that author, which you may have never done, but if you have done, it's a pretty good signal that you might be interested in what they have to say. Next, and I want to thank you real quick for sticking with me because I know this is a long video, but I do want to talk about shadow banning, which is an issue we take incredibly seriously at Instagram. Now, shadow banning as a term means different things to different people, but it generally is used to describe a situation where you're not getting as much reach as you think you deserve. And I want to debunk a really popular myth out there, which is that we do not suppress reach in order to get accounts to pay for ads. If there's an audience that is interested in what you share, it is in our interest as a business to help connect those people to your content as effectively.
People have accused Instagram for suppressing their voice if they talk about in the favor or against of a certain political entity. And whatever their content actually aligns with the terms and conditions or terms of service of Instagram. But Instagram or Meta as a whole has been accused to have certain political inclination, and because of that, they have been suppressing the voices that speak against that inclination. Now we don't know, but that is also one source from where people started thinking about shadow banning.
As possible, because the more we connect those people with the content they're interested in.
And speaking of which, you also need to understand what is hate speech. You cannot talk about a certain community or entity in a bad way. You have to use more inclusive language in your content. And many businesses and even creators might face this issue because they don't know what inclusive language is or what is lack of inclusive language. We generally tend to talk or create content in our natural flow, an emotional flow, but we need to take this into account. And just because it falls into the category of hate speech, we might experience a reduced reach, even if nobody actually reported or post or our account.
The happier they're going to be, the more they're going to use Instagram. The happier you're going to be, the more you're going to use Instagram. And then we can run a business by advertising against that engagement elsewhere. Now, I do want to also be clear that there are some instances in which we will reduce an account's reach or remove a piece of content because it violates our community guidelines, for instance. But it's important that you have full information and context whenever that happens, which is why we've built something that we call account status. So if you go to profile, settings, you can go to account.
So when this term got coined, I mean, it is a widespread term. It has got nothing to do with to stay limited with respect to Instagram or Meta. The term is widespread on almost every social media platform. Now, this is something that they have launched now. It did not exist earlier when people were actually talking about shadow banning. Now they have launched this feature maybe a few months back, and now people can see each time if they feel like their reach has been reduced, and if it has been officially pointed out by Instagram by visiting this account status thing.
Which is why we've built something that we call account status. So if you go to profile, settings, you can go to account status, and there's really important information there about your account. You can see, one, have we removed any photos or videos that you've posted on Instagram because they violate our guidelines, and you can appeal those decisions if we've made a mistake. Two, you can see your account recommendability status. So Are your photos and videos eligible to show up in surfaces like Explore or Reels where people are seeing things from accounts they do not follow? And you can see why that status is the way it is, and you can remove something if you need to or appeal a decision. And third, you can also see, is your account eligible to be recommended in surfaces like search and accounts you should follow? And again, you can appeal any decisions there because you deserve.
There is another surface. Wow. Yeah. So two services that he talked about where also ranking might matter. First is their suggestions, account suggestions. When you follow a certain account, you get account suggestions. A tray opens up and you get a list of accounts in a horizontal manner, which are considered similar by Instagram with the account that you just followed. So that has got another type of ranking. And one of the most important is, let me go back here and show you.
Is your account eligible to be recommended in services like search and
search, which looks like Instagram would be working more on this because it has got its own surface, and I hope it would be more streamlined and there would be more understandable ways in order to make our marketing efforts more effective, to also start ranking for search queries at the top, just like SEO does on Google. And I don't think this ranking is only based on keywords. There must be other factors, but we don't know yet for sure. We can just guess. So let's see if they have got anything to say officially for ranking for the search results on Instagram.
Accounts you should follow. And again, you can appeal any decisions there because you deserve to know what's going on with your reach on Instagram. So please check out account status. Lastly, I want to call with some advice on how to grow your reach and grow your audience on Instagram. Now, unfortunately, I need to be honest, there are no silver bullets, but
that's what he has been doing, but he just used but. So let's get into it.
There are some best practices that do tend to work. The first, which is probably the most important, is to experiment. Every audience is different, and what they're interested in is also different. So you're going to need to experiment and figure out what resonates with the people that follow your account. The second is
so in terms of content creation, if you are a content creator or a business owner who is just handling content creation for the most part by yourself, then most of the times it is possible that we might just stick with our habit of creating content. Let's say there are a lot of types of reels that we can make. There are lots of types of single image posts that we can make. There are different ways in which we can create our stories, but just because of that habit and that comfort, we might just continue to create content in a specific way. If it is working, awesome, but if it's not, then you should always be aware that there are other ways in which you can create content. There are ways to convey the same message, so which might be consumed quickly and in a more interesting way by our audience. So we should keep on experimenting if we are not getting results. It's mostly in terms of content creation.
Your insights. This helps you figure out what's working and what's not. Now, don't overreact to any one photo or video, but look for broader trends. What type of content tends to do well? What kind of content tends to do less well for you? And
so this one thing, look at the broader trends. So this again highlights an importance of pumping out more content as much as you can. If you have more sample space, that is more number of posts, you can spot the trend, you can spot the patterns in terms of the reach, the reaction, or the response of your target audience to your content, and you can make progress in terms of how you should change your content creation or overall posting, timing, etc.
Then evolve or iterate from there. Third is collaborate with other creators. We know people love seeing creators come together to create new things and to be creative in new and collaborative ways. Fourth is make sure you check out account status to see if there's any recommendability issues with your account so that you can address those or appeal.
About collaborations, I just shared a video yesterday. Instagram is testing a feature where we can mention other profiles in our Instagram notes. So it's not exactly a collaboration, but that would be an extra surface for people to give shout outs to others. So if it's a creator giving shout out to a business, he might actually or she might actually choose to charge the brand for giving them a shout out. And it would be more fruitful for the brand if the feature is designed in such a way that people can actually click on that mentioned brand name or username and land on that brand's page. So we don't know how the feature is going to be, or they are actually going to roll it out for everyone. We don't know. Let's see. I mean, it just opens up an additional opportunity for creators and brands to have a paid partnerships. It might not be an official paid partnership, but in the background they might choose to exchange money or other stuff.
Mistake. And lastly, try and create original and engaging content. We're getting better over time at understanding the difference between aggregators and creators that make original content, and we're going to look to favor the latter as much as possible. Now, if you have any other questions about tips and tricks or how ranking works, you can go to my link in bio right now, and there's an overview of everything that we went over today and more.
I don't understand one thing, something that I noticed on Instagram. He pointed out that they would like to encourage original content. At the same time, they have this feature called remix, and I've seen many niche pages or theme pages where they just choose to remix with a certain reel, and they remix it in such a way that there is no input from their side. So when you look at the remixed reel, it is identical to the reel it has been remixed with, or remixed the source reel. It is identical to the source reel. And I have seen remixed reels getting more reach, more shares, more likes, more comments than the source reel. I mean, not every time, but I've came across such reels. So I don't know what's the logic. Is it just Instagram encouraging people to remix the content rather than just downloading and then re-uploading? I don't know what exactly is there, but this is something interesting that I've noticed. Yeah.
Now, our hope is to help explain how Instagram works to you so that you can make the most of the platform and so that Instagram can be as vibrant and creative a community as possible. So more to come. See ya.
Yeah. And Mark Zuckerberg just yesterday said that we have got some announcement to make. Let's see if it's going to be about the text app of Instagram. Let's see, we don't know yet. But yeah, it's good that he made some clarifications about some stuff. And I'll go through this article once again if he missed any of the points from the article, and I'll share those on my page or the channel. So stay tuned and let me know how did you find this video.